gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for June 20th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Metroid Prime 4 impressed a lot of people with its visuals in the Nintendo Direct. So does that mean it wasn't actually running on original Switch hardware? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Sean, TurboShawn McDowell, everybody. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm sitting here with my AC at a cool, crisp 74 degrees, Jeff.
Yeah, we're running 75, which I'm okay with. I think I personally would like it a little bit.
75 is okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I tell you why it's okay for me. I'm in the basement, and it's like I get all of the benefits of it. So I am good down here. It's much cooler than 75 down here. It is,
and I recognize the 74. It's a little high. It's a little higher than most people put. I totally acknowledge that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like this. There's no way to do this without being a humble brag. Got kind of like a larger home, so it takes a lot to cool it, and that is why it's like no way I can't run it lower than what it's at right now, basically, because it would just be running constantly. I did do a test last night. I'm like, let me set it to 73 and see if it gets down there. It did, but it took like 3 hours to go from 75 to 73.
I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum where our apartment has central air. Thankfully, it's very nice, but it's a very old unit. So
right.
Okay, yes,
right. Same results, but for different reasons. Exactly. Yeah, I think we're kind of.
But also, I'm wearing what I would wear outside right now, just a t-shirt and shorts. That in a 74, that's comfy to me. That's comfy.
I asked people, for people wondering why we're talking about this, I asked on Twitter last night kind of what people set their AC units normally at when they're at home. And I did do this because Vinny Caravella on the Nextlander podcast says that he runs his at 78 all the time.
78. Jeez.
I'm like, I hear, I'm like, listen, everyone's got to do their own thing, but I work from home. Steph works from home. The kids are home for the summer. We're not driving, so we're saving money on gas from not commuting. Let's just use that money to cool the home. Like it's probably still a little bit more expensive than what gas would come to, but not that much more expensive. So it's kind of our big reasoning here. And the last couple nights when it's been 80 even at night, just running it constantly, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes you get the people who are just wild. Our buddy Nate the Hate was just like, my thermostat says 80 right now, and I'm cool with that. And Mike was like, what are you talking about?
I get very uncomfortable when I'm hot, so I get it, but
same.
But also, it's like at a certain point, it's physics, and I can't get this house any cooler or whatever. So I'm just like, I just have to accept it and mind over matter. Yeah, exactly. How are you doing otherwise, Sean?
Not bad. We mostly had the day off yesterday, so I had a chance to unwind a little bit after taking care of some other businessy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm tired.
Yeah,
I'm always tired.
Same. Yeah, I'm trying to.
You got vacation coming up here soon, so you deserve that.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna drive up to up north, is what they say in Michigan. We're gonna go to Traverse City and hang out and see some family.
It's a Midwest thing, going up north there.
Up north there, yep. Yeah, it is, and it's in Michigan. Well, going up north didn't mean the Upper Peninsula. That just meant the northern part of the mitten. And then if you were going to go to the Upper Peninsula, you'd be like, we're going to the UP. But it's all just a bunch of woods and then a few small towns. And Traverse City is one of the bigger ones, actually. But we got some family up there. We're gonna see them hang out. Maybe go to like Lake Michigan, go swimming and stuff like that. See some fireworks, eat some cherry pie at the Cherry Festival. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good. So and like Steph's like, what do you want to do on this trip? I'm like, I'll do whatever you want, but then I want to like sit down and read a book. So hopefully I find some time for that.
Take some time to yourself. Like, man, I'm a little busy this week. I'm filling in for Jan on most stuff while he's on vacation this week. And but what keeps me going is riding that high from Marvel versus Capcom Fighting Collection and that Nintendo Direct, and that and Prime 4 getting re-revealed and everything like that, man. That was such a good present. Even if you don't like Nintendo, come on, that's just a good presentation.
That seems to be the consensus for most people too. There's like, these aren't normally my games, but they just did a really good job. Not everyone feels that way, and that's fine. But Boy, I was
people who don't like video games didn't like that one. But,
yeah, sure, exactly. You said it, not me, but I agree.
That one guy who said, "I'm still not buying a Nintendo."
Hey, yes, that ruled. That just made my day. That's the best stuff.
Oh man.
We should explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with that question about Metroid Prime 4 that some people are asking, which is, hey, was that on Switch 2? And
this comes from Mike Minotti at GameSpeed.
Here's a headline for you. No, the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond trailer was not running on Switch 2. This is from Ollie Reynolds at Nintendo Life. Over the last few years, as more and more time passed, with barely a whisper from Nintendo or Retro Studios regarding Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, many fans have begun to ask the same question. Will it skip the Switch and launch on Switch 2? After all, the game's eventual revival during the latest Nintendo Direct came after the firm had finally acknowledged the Switch's successor, confirming that it would be revealed within the next financial year. So many had come to the conclusion that if Prime 4 doesn't feature in this showcase, then chances are it isn't heading for the original Switch. Alas, there it was, and it looked beautiful, but did it look good enough for the Switch? Or too good for the Switch, I should say. That's what some folks seem to think, but IGN has gained some pretty affirmative comment from digital founders Richard Ledbetter that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is, at least based on evidence so far, a Switch game. Here's what Richard said. It's looking great, and there are a couple of nice effects in there we took a closer look at, but ultimately, all the evidence points to this game running on the original Switch. The internal rendering resolution counts at 900p, which is the same as Metroid Prime Remastered. And as good as it is, there are some aliasing issues and even some minor frame rate drops. Everything about the visual makeup is consistent with a really well-made Switch game where Retro has an excellent track record. I can imagine the development studio is really happy that people are making a connection with Switch 2, though, mind you. Yeah.
I love that they got the DF guys because I already know, shouts to the homies over there on DF Director Weekly next Monday. They're going to talk about having to beat the claims of, is it too big for Switch? Which is, the quote that they're always attributed to.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like, I was guilty of this with, what was that game that, man, it was a couple years ago when the Switch Pro rumors were really going around. There was something at one of these directs. I can't remember what it was now.
Oh, Tears of the Kingdom was the big one for a while.
Tears of the Kingdom was one of those for sure, but there was another one. Either way, it was it's like, oh yeah, I guess maybe this could be what we're seeing as Switch.
Mario and Rabbids.
Mario and
Rabbids.
It was,
we got 4K assets because it was a Ubisoft game, and so they must have been doing it on PC, which you're not supposed to do, by the way, if you're present. Well, I don't know if they did at Nintendo Direct. I think it was like on the Nintendo website or something like that. I have learned recently, apparently you are never supposed to do the whole rendering it on PC preview footage, then saying captured on PC. This is not representative of Switch. You can't do that if you're going to be in Nintendo Direct specifically. Like Nintendo won't allow that.
Right.
So you need to show,
which is why
what
Funko
it's going
Fusion
to
looks
look like.
So terrible. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you always see games running at low frame rates in Nintendo Directs, is because it's representative of actual footage from the console itself.
This isn't surprising. We're really. I looked at it. I'm like, I understand that this game does look very good, but I know why it looks good. It's because it's retro, and their artists are a lot of the artists they have still are very unmatched in a lot of ways, in taking advantage of the technology that they have. And Metroid Prime 1 Remastered looked fantastic on the Switch already, and this definitely has a few more things going on. As Richard points out, it's like there's some cool effects. I definitely thought that the volumetric fog smoke that was happening really added a lot of ambiance to it. And, there was definitely stuff like that in Metroid Prime 1 Remaster as well. But it's just like in this scenario, it looked very premium, but it doesn't look like some massive leap forward either. It's like, no, that could run on the Switch. I think people are just like 60 frames per second looks really smooth. It's like, well, they were really good at that.
So was Remastered.
So was Remastered. Exactly. So
yeah, which is what Rich alluded to here, because this I'm still trying to remember. I should just go back and look it up. But those rumors that I believe went around where someone was looking at code or it was tied to like leaks or whatever, people were basically saying, oh, yeah, Prime 4 is being based on the Prime Remastered tech.
Yeah.
And so we always expected it to just look like Prime Remastered, whatever that would look like, because those rumors happened before that game came out. When that game did come out, it looked gorgeous.
Right. It was like, well,
900p.
duh, of course you want it to look like this. This looks just about as good as any Switch game has ever looked.
Yeah, 900p, very good upscale to 1080, and then from there, it's a Switch. So your TV's going to do with it what it does with it.
Right.
But it looked fantastic. It ran at 60, as far as I remember, like very, very stable 60, no less. And yeah, that's what you're going to get here. Speaking of the DF guys, they were also talking. Alex pointed out in the Doom Dark Ages trailer. There is like when the Slayer gets shot from space to the ground. Like all of that seemed to be like in engine, but the fog or like the clouds that part when it gets shot in, that's not necessarily something that's happening in real time. That's something that could have been pre-rendered and layered over the real-time graphics.
I can see that. That makes sense.
I was thinking about that with Prime 4 here a little bit, where I'm like, yeah, you know what? Devs are getting good at that, figuring out smart. Where they can cut corners. Yeah, being very smart about their graphics. And that's why I was saying when we were talking over the director, giving our thoughts afterwards, is I could already see some things were slightly cut back. Some textures were like, if you're really looking at them, it's like, oh, those are a little lower res, a little muddier. They're making the smart cuts. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of rendering techniques similar to foveated rendering or whatnot, where what is a variable rate shading?
Oh, yeah, VRS, yes.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if, may not necessarily that tech, because I don't think, if the engine doesn't implement or the Switch doesn't handle it well, but something like that where they are.
VRS, but yes, I know what you mean.
Where they are rendering certain things in the scene at lower resolutions, lower texture resolutions, because you're not looking at that.
Or it's in shadow.
That's the kind of, exactly. Shadows are the first thing I turn down when I'm turning down PC settings, because they're very heavy and you never know so much at a certain point.
Exactly, yeah. So it's
like they're gonna make smart cuts.
And I think what we know about Retro still is that they are very talented artists and very talented technologically. So
yes,
put those two things together, you're gonna game that looks like this. I think the other side of it for a lot of people, Sean, though, is just the circumstantial evidence, right? Where it was, for a long time, we were hearing that the Switch 2 was supposed to launch this holiday, this fall, and this game is coming out in 2025. So after that point, so people just go post hoc ergo propter hoc. This thing followed that thing. So how would this game have come out on the Switch 1 if it was going to come out after the Switch 2? And it's like, well, obviously there is some more happening here that we don't know about, right? And it probably will take advantage of the Switch 2 in some way once that's out. Do you think, though, that this game is cross-gen? Do you think it is like launches like on Switch 1 as we see it even after the Switch 2 is out still? Is that possible?
It really is the big mystery of the Switch 2 in general, is how are these games going to be handled on the next system? And I think we're just so past the cross-gen the cross-gen idea in gaming in general that, people always talk about how behind Nintendo is in a variety of ways, but they actually, they have good tech skills. They just are very conservative with them because, they always put out weaker hardware because they like to say, we don't take a loss on hardware. We like turning at least even a small profit on the hardware from the get-go. So that way, if we do really well, then these systems are generating money as well. But they know what they're doing with tech. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they look around and they see that the way everyone's doing previous gen to next gen is that they're going to do, backwards compatibility updates. They're going to do upgrade paths, something like that. It's Nintendo. They very easily could just say, here is a Switch 1 version that is $60. Here's a Switch 2 version that is $70.
Do anything like that, yes.
Yeah, it's Nintendo. They could do anything, but I don't know. I just have this gut feeling that we're going to get something, and maybe even disappointing that it is just, it just runs on Switch 2 better, which they have done in the past. They've just said plays better on blank. They've like slapped that sticker on, like DS boxes and stuff like that in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just do something very basic. I don't know. Because again, if this game is just running at, upscaled to 1080p, you can make that look good on a 4K screen, even if you just do a nearest neighbor upscaling. You just double it vertically and horizontally. Maybe again, if it has DLSS or something equivalent, if that's very agnostic, I mean, maybe that just takes the 1080p image and upscales it to 4K and it looks really nice in a AMD's FSR. If people don't know, the PC equivalent on the AMD side of things, that's similar to NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling. The older versions of that just take an image and upscale it the way an upscaler in the game itself works.
Right.
We could easily see them just go that route as well. There's a bunch of possibilities here. I expect them to take the slightly more conservative one while still acknowledging that, you kind of just want to pop the game in. It'll just work on your new system like PlayStation and Xbox are doing.
Yeah, I'm very curious to learn more about the Switch 2. I wonder if they'll do something where it's obviously there's a lot of tech in the Switch 2 and it has a lot of NVIDIA stuff to upscale stuff, DLSS and some of its other technologies it has that do those things. But I also wonder, it's maybe this time the dock will have a little something in it, not extra processing power, but like that M cable. Where it's we added some extra aliasing on top of it to really get you up to 1440p. That works decently well. I like when I use mine. And it's you could add a little bit of that on top of everything and just smooth things out. And it's that would affect every single game no matter what. So I think there's a possibility there's a lot of possibilities. Basically, they could do a ton of things to make the Switch 2 feel like an upgrade in whatever way. We'll see what route they take and how that affects a game like Metroid Prime 4 here pretty soon. All right, another quick Nintendo story. Splatoon 3 physical release bundled with expansion pass DLC has been announced. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Nintendo has announced it's releasing a new physical version of Splatoon 3 in Japan next month on the 18th of July. This new package will come bundled with a copy of the game, the expansion pass, including the Ingopolis update and side order DLC, as well as a 3-month Switch Online subscription. It's not specifically mentioned if everything is actually on the game card, but Nintendo has done this with previous Switch game and DLC bundles. There was an update to the story that Nintendo of Australia also confirmed a Western release, although Australia not exactly, whatever. Announcing the same physical bundle will be released locally on the 25th of July, 2024 at select retailers. This is probably going to go everywhere. Splatoon 3, very big seller for them. And just bundling it with the DLC is something we expect. I almost am a little surprised it's not more of a thing, right? Where it's Splatoon Mega Edition, or Splatoon Game of the Year Edition or something like that.
Well, as someone who doesn't buy physical copies anymore, you probably haven't been up on this. Nintendo does do this a lot.
Okay, they do this a lot. All right.
Yeah, and they're close partners too. Game Freak does this with Pokemon, where they'll put out whatever Pokemon game, and then now, as of Sword and Shield, they do expansion passes for their games instead of the third game. And then at retail, a year out, they will replace the $60 SKU with Pokemon game plus expansion pack.
It makes a lot of sense.
The game cart plus a DLC code for the expansion pass. They've done it with what I believe Zelda Breath of the Wild got one. Okay. I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has one in select territories, and Splatoon 2 I think only got it in Japan the first time around. And so now Splatoon 3, it getting some kind of Western or other territory to release is it's just kind of following suit with these other ones that they've already done.
And
it's exciting.
Yeah, and it definitely makes a lot of sense. It's the kind of thing where you put these out, get ready for the holidays, and Splatoon, massive seller in Japan especially, so having that there ready to go there, it's gonna just help that game a little bit more and kind of keep things fresh for the Switch going through what should be its last major holiday without a successor on the market. All right, let's hit this next one. I'm glad you're here. Marvel vs. Capcom fans are angry that MvC Fighting Collection won't be coming to Xbox. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. The collection, which was announced during Tuesday's Nintendo Direct, will be released on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC, but not Microsoft's consoles. Capcom has yet to explain why Xbox players won't be getting the game, but fans took to social media to voice their displeasure with the phrase "no Xbox" trending across social media, according to IGN. I was hype AF until I saw there is no Xbox version. Why not? Wrote user Bella Drive. A game like Marvel vs. Capcom should be on as many platforms as possible. Previous Capcom collections have always been on Xbox too. Why is this different? Another Capcom collection featuring 2 Ace Attorney investigation games was also announced during the Nintendo Direct. This collection will be coming to Xbox. VGC asked Capcom why the collection isn't currently planned for Xbox. Capcom has yet to respond at the time of writing. Now, did you see this thing about the MT framework in Xbox?
No.
Okay,
What's up?
so someone online mentioned like on social media, I think they might have tagged with Jez Corden or something like, Capcom doesn't seem to have a pipeline to port MT framework games, which is like the engine that Capcom used before RE Engine, right? Is that pretty
correct?
They don't have a pipeline to get that on Xbox Series consoles, and so they just aren't doing it because of that. And then apparently Windows Central went out and asked some sources about that, and they're like, yes, this is true, and that is the reason why this game isn't on Xbox. Now, does that sound right to you? Because I would be like,
well, we don't know what engine this game is running on, so that feels like a lot of speculation.
Yes. Also, I mean, wouldn't they have had a pipeline to put MT framework games on Xbox One and then be backward compatible on Xbox?
Yeah, because
Series?
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is an MT framework game, and that is on Xbox One.
So maybe that's deprecated. Maybe there's something lost there. But I'll just say that doesn't sound super right to me when I hear that.
Chuck just linked us to the tweet that seems to, have some of this where it comes from, and yeah, it looks like people are just speculating on that one right now.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if the Windows Central peeps, Jez, or anyone has heard anything more, but that does feel like it's speculation at this point.
Either way, it's as it stands right now, not coming to Xbox. It does feel a little odd still, even though we were talking on the talk over about like why is this happening, and it's like fighting games. It is very much a PlayStation thing right now. With my understanding is you go to the fighting game tournaments and you're gonna have mostly PlayStations, maybe some PCs, right?
Yes.
And then for Killer Instinct, maybe get an Xbox.
Yeah, almost universally it is PlayStations because everything is on PlayStation that gets run at a tournament outside of obviously Smash exclusive, Switch, KI exclusive to Xboxes, where they've replaced it with like Series S's or X's depending on what they can afford. Yeah, we talked about this at some point during the week. I don't remember when, but I mentioned, Xbox, I'll be frank, Xbox fanboys in particular, but even just, people who like their Xbox consoles aren't going to like hearing this, but what does Xbox bring to the table on this one? Because you need to keep in mind the logistics of this one. Despite the fact that it is a big IP with Marvel, this is absolutely going to be a smaller project in general.
Yeah.
They definitely didn't throw a ton of money at this. You can tell with things like it does not have crossplay. Why does it not have crossplay? Because, friendly reminder to everyone, anytime you do crossplay, you need your own third-party system managing the matchmaking, managing accounts and everything like that, because you need to link people together. They have Capcom ID, but they would need to do all the work that involves putting Capcom ID into this smaller release and then managing the servers and server costs associated with that. They probably just don't think that's worth it. And that's going hand in hand with why is it not coming out on Xbox? They seem to just not think it's worth it. and
those that like running that cross play like back end stuff, it's not like super expensive. It does.
It's not. It's the development cost of putting it into the game in the first place.
Time,
that's the issue.
And it's like, but I think it's also indicative of like where this project's at, as you're saying, where it's like, it's not some massive cost, but it's a cost, and they're like, it's a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So let's just go ahead and save that dollar in this case.
And so someone in chat is saying like, there's so many millions of series consoles out there, like 30 million we're guessing plus at this point. But how many of those people are going to buy this specifically on that platform is the question. And with the Ace Attorney series, again, it's much smaller than Marvel vs. Capcom, but they saw no return on that investment. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that soured them. And that's just going to continue forward, is them saying, well, that's why we're not playing the Mega Man Battle Network collection on there. That's why you're not going to get Marvel vs. Capcom, because they're saying, if y'all ain't buying it, we're just not going to put it over there. And I don't know. yeah, I get it. I don't like it. I would like for the game to be everywhere. I want everyone to play every game in general. So the fact that it's not coming to Xbox is definitely a bummer. But like I was saying previously, what does Xbox bring to the table when the hardcore audience for this game is playing on PC? Tournaments are being run on PlayStation, and people play it portably on their Switches. What does Xbox bring? It brings a smaller version of PlayStation's player base.
Or it brings a check for Game Pass. And that's, if that didn't happen...
Which maybe in the future, that's how it comes. Because like sometimes games do get ported over to Xbox specifically because the deal is struck with Game Pass. And if that's what it takes, that would be cool. But that also is kind of the double-edged sword of something like Game Pass 100%. At this point, is that there are these developers who say, look, if Microsoft ain't cutting the check, it's not worth our time. And so then it's on Microsoft because their ecosystem to get these games in there, which they're not doing a great job of right now, it kind of feels like. So, yeah, it's I don't know. Things are messy over there. You know, no offense to the Xbox audience at all. Like, I wish you could play this, but things are messy over there right now.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, Microsoft and Capcom seem to have a pretty good relationship right now. Kanetsugami,
like the major releases will come over because those will sell in
and
the
some
millions
of them are on
of
Game Pass
copies.
day one, like Path of the Goddess. Like, yeah, the you know, it's a $50 game. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but no, still, it's like they clearly have a good relationship, and I think Capcom does like Game Pass, but it's like, but when absent of that. What does Capcom think of putting stuff on Xbox? Well, I think they're much more pragmatic.
Because this is going to be a budget release, and let's say, you know, screw you. I'm purely hypothetical here. Like, if the project costs them an additional, let's say $500,000. Again, hypothetically, I have no idea. That's probably way off. But hypothetically, $500,000 to port it over to Xbox, and then because it doesn't sell particularly well on Xbox, they get a return of like, you know, $750K back in sales. Is that $250K worth the investment to them to like put developers on it, to like have time spent that could have been spent on other projects there? And they're probably looking at the numbers and they're saying, no, we don't think that's worth it. And that's all what it comes down to at this point.
Yep, I think so. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, a lot more headlines to get into, including what's Bluepoint working on. We haven't heard from them in a while. Ooh. All right, we are back. Let's get right back into it, in fact, with Bluepoint Games is still working on an original title. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Every time Sony has an event, people show up hoping that Bluepoint Games will announce their next game. The studio was bought by Sony in 2021 and has become known for releasing really well-crafted remakes. Many are therefore hoping that next up will launch remakes of games such as Killzone, Resistance, or Bloodborne. But in connection with the acquisition, it was revealed that the next game to be released is something completely new. And now Bluepoint's head of technology, Peter Dalton, writes via Twitter that nothing has changed since our statement that we are working on an original title. And with that, we know, given that their last title was Demon's Souls, which was released 4 years ago, it's definitely time to announce something new. But don't expect a spectacular remake. Yeah, just kind of proof of life a little bit here, but I think it also is like important to get these updates sometimes, because I think myself, Sean, I was in the situation where like, yeah, they said they were working on something original, but maybe they were also at the same time working on a new remake, and we'll get that first. That's totally possible. And so, no, that's not what's happening. Nothing's changed. The last time they told us the thing that they're working on is a new original IP from Bluepoint that we'll see whenever they're ready to show it. And I'll just say I appreciate that. It's kind of good to like recheck things. And it's a reminder that, no, they probably aren't making the Bloodborne remake. So, yeah. Are you excited about whatever Bluepoint's doing next? Because I'm like cautiously optimistic. I think that they're really great at technology, but I've never really loved the way the Bluepoint remakes look. I guess Demon's Souls look great, but I don't have a lot of affinity for the original Demon's Souls. But Shadow of the Colossus for me I think I like the way the original game looks better, and maybe that's just a me thing. But it's like now they have to make a new game that like can stand on its own in terms of visual style, and then also be in a completely original game that they have to design from the ground up. I'm sure they can do it, but I guess I don't have a lot to carry forward in terms of believing that, oh, well, for sure they can do it, because I haven't seen that before from them.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, Does the letter X just read as the word Twitter in your brain now?
Uh-huh.
You do it so well. Like,
Thank you.
The audience can't see this, but on the document, there's so many references to a certain website here. And it just says Twitter so effortlessly every time. I love it.
It's just the brain has clicked in place now where it's like, nope, that letter just means Twitter.
Yep, exactly. Okay. I like what Bluepoint does, but ironically, the games that they have been remaking aren't the ones that I'm into. I'm not into a Shadow of the Colossus because Shadow of the Colossus is a very intentionally empty game.
Yeah, meditative.
It's all about introspection in between these giant boss fights. So that was never really my cup of tea. And I'm not a Souls guy in general. Again, nothing against those games either. I just don't like them. And so I had no affinity for the Demon Souls remake. I was just like, hey, this looks incredible. And it seems like there's some small tweaks there that people like. So, hey, good for that crowd. Absolutely. When it comes to what they're doing next, I'm curious what working on an original title means in general. Like original IP or new game in an existing franchise.
My memory of them announcing this originally was new IP. I think they
sounded like new IP from
IP.
what I remember too. Yeah. So, hey, I mean, if that's what they want to do, like devs should be allowed to do what they want, as long as it makes sense for everybody involved. Like, yeah, go for it. But I would like to see how they would tackle some stuff. It seems like, as far as we know, any sort of rumors flowing around of like them doing MGS2 as their MGS1 as their next game. That seems like probably not the case at this point, but that is also a thing I would like to see how they handle it, because they are so faithful to the original games. I'm curious to see how they handle going back to PS1 and tackling that, because MGS1 is the game that I think is basically flawless. Like, obviously there's some PS1 jank involved in it, but it's such a great example of they nailed what they were going for on that console. And so I would be curious to see how that translates in modern day, and not just having something like Twin Snakes, where, for friendly reminder, by the way, because I know it's even come up on this site recently, Kojima is the reason that Twin Snakes is whack. Like, Des Dyack is on record as saying, no, we were going to do a one-to-one remake like what Bluepoint is doing nowadays. He said, because they also got like the combat director or whatever from, or combat, a choreographer from like The Matrix or something.
That's right.
Like, no. We hired you to make this over the top because that's what I want. So the friendly reminder, that was him who did that to Twin Snakes. But anyways, yeah, I would. It was
Dennis Dyack that ruined X-Men Dimensions and Two Human and all the rest.
Oh yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, just I'm interested to see what their next remake would be, and I'm very, very curious to see what them working on an original IP would be like. Because what have they done a truly original game ever?
Know. Maybe not that I remember. First time I remember hearing about Bluepoint was the Titanfall port to Xbox 360, and they did a good job on that. They're just like technical wizards over there. But I don't remember ever hearing them related to an original game. But that doesn't mean they can't do it. They're I think they got purchased by Sony in part. It seemed, well, obviously for their remake work, but at the time, the thing that they think they were pitching to Sony was this new game, and then that's when Sony bought them. So Sony must have a belief in what they're doing, and that usually speaks pretty highly to what they're working on. So we'll see. I do think that we get to a next major showcase from Sony, and we probably do hear about this Bluepoint game at that point. Whenever that showcase does happen, could be later this year, could be next year. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, up next, Timesplitters could be headed to PlayStation Plus, a new rating suggests. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. The Taiwanese ratings board may have revealed the identity of another upcoming PlayStation Plus Classics title. As spotted by Gamatsu, the country's classification body has rated Timesplitters for PS4 and PS5. The Taiwanese rating board is a regular source of product leaks, including several games that ended up coming to PlayStation Plus. Originally released for PS2 in 2000, sci-fi first-person shooter Timesplitters was the debut title from Free Radical Design and the first in a trilogy of games. Following a disappointing reception to another first-person shooter, Haze, and a canceled Star Wars Battlefront project, the studio went bankrupt in 2008 and would later be rebranded after being acquired by Crytek. A lot more happened with that studio later on, where they got brought back by PlayOn and /Embracer, and then got closed down again. But yeah, either way, this is happening because we have seen that this rating sport has done this a bunch of times now, and it does seem like PlayStation's full steam ahead on PS2 emulated games, something that is relatively new. That's only happened in the last couple of weeks.
This isn't going to be the game that looks like Fortnite.
This is probably not going to be the Fortnite game. God, that's right. I forgot about that.
If everyone didn't see that yet, the canceled Fortnite-style Timesplitters. Holy moly!
Yeah, I have that stuff footage saved in my hard drive somewhere.
Look that up. Ooh.
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, this will be the original game, which is pretty good. I think I like Timesplitters 2 a little bit better, but Timesplitters 1 was pretty good. The problem is, this is still right in that time when not everyone was just doing either Halo controls or eventually Call of Duty controls. So it's there's a little bit of funkiness there. I think they're in the options. You can just choose something that references Halo and then kind of get to control that way. But you can get used to it. Timesplitters is a good game. And mostly, Sean, what I'm excited about here is they aren't slowing down with these PS2 games. And that is a good sign that we're going to get a lot more new stuff that has not been on PlayStation Store in the past that has been previously emulated. They're doing new stuff. So it's a good sign for me.
Yeah, definitely. Because especially in, we talked about Nintendo Direct, but in the face of that, where people are saying, why are they freaking out that, old games are getting re-releases or added to NSO? It's not for us. It's not for the me and Jeff Grubbs of the world. Yeah, we're going to emulate this crap. We don't care.
Yeah.
But it's about accessibility. It's about more people getting to play it who are just going to turn on a console and want to play the game and not think about, firing up their computer or attaching something to their phone or buying a new handheld. They want the game to just be playable. And if someone who maybe even at this point grew up playing Timesplitters, that's, maybe someone my age or slightly older grew up playing this game a lot in high school or what have you, they would be really stoked to see this come to a subscription like PS Plus. I really, really don't like the fact that these things all seem to be tied to subscriptions nowadays. I miss the virtual console method or just, standalone re-releases. That's why
I think Sony does usually put these in the store separately as well. At least that's been my assumption. It doesn't say that here.
No, these are just in the subscription.
These are just in the subscription, huh? Okay.
Unless they changed that, that's at least the way it started. They were just in the subscription, yes.
Okay.
It was not like PS4 where the new ones that are getting added.
Right.
Maybe that has changed, and chat, feel free to correct me. But they started just
you can buy them. Lexi bought Sly.
Good.
So
Good, perfect.
Yes, okay, fantastic. Yes,
okay.
But I know what you mean. Still, where it's like a lot of this stuff can still happen. Where it's like it's only happened because of the subscription. But it's like PlayStation has done this like frequently, where they do still put it in the store.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Yeah, originally how they rolled out all of their. It was so confusing. The retro stuff was just the PS Plus tiers, and because they were copying Nintendo. And Nintendo's method freaking sucks nowadays. I don't like the NSO model. Give me the option to buy them piecemeal if I want, and then, make the proposition look even more appealing by having them in a subscription. So, okay, if Sony does let you buy both, perfect. That is the ideal solution nowadays then, because, just give people the option, right?
Yep, absolutely. And
cool.
Yeah, I again just keep doing more of this because and eventually get to PS3. I've heard a long time ago that they were working on a PS3 emulator, so we'll see. Maybe that does eventually happen. All right, Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been rated for last gen consoles, suggesting release date news could arrive soon. This is from Tom Ivan of VGC. Last gen console versions of Star Wars Jedi Survivor have been rated, suggesting EA may share release plans for the product in the near future. According to VGC contributor Andrew Marmo, Respawn's sequel was recently classified for Xbox One and PS4 in Brazil. While this doesn't necessarily mean a product release is imminent, fans could receive news on when the game will be making the jump to new platforms soon. EA announced plans to bring Star Wars Jedi Survivor to PS4 and Xbox One last August. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is pure blockbuster entertainment rooted in a timeless culture-defining IP, CEO Andrew Wilson said during an earnings call. Our team at Respawn proudly launched the title to critical acclaim and commercial success. Millions of players have already engaged with the game, making this one of the biggest events in the Star Wars galaxy this year. Thanks to the strength of this legendary franchise and community demand, our development team is committed to bringing the Jedi experience to PS4 and Xbox One. The question with this one, Sean, was always, kind of doesn't run great on current gen hardware. What are you talking about here?
Yep.
Obviously, they've updated it a bunch of times. So maybe it is better. I still don't think that PC version is great, though, by my understanding. But maybe that's changed as well. But hey, they're not re-releasing on a PC. They're releasing on Xbox One and PS4. So maybe that's where all the efforts have gone. This is a strange one. I know they said it last August. We probably talked about it then. But just,
I remember talking about it.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I get it that those consoles are still going concerns. There's such going concerns though that this is worth it. It must be. They know better than I do. They have more access to the numbers. But I think that really says about where we're at in terms of these consoles and how they're moving and who's buying them.
I do think it's going to be a defining moment for, is it worth it to still release these games on the last generation? Because we are now closing in on, oh God, I hate year math. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 years out from when these current consoles released. At what point do we just drop them? And if they are I think they probably are looking at the numbers of free-to-play games, including their own, and saying, oh, people still have these things hooked up. Because obviously, if you're playing on a PS4 specifically, that's going to report to them in their metrics as a PS4. They know that you're playing on that console, so they must think that's worth it in some capacity. EA is also very weird, so who knows? But that's the only thing I can think of, is that the numbers are there.
I think the other theory here that people suggested, and I suppose this is possible, is getting it ready for PS4 and Xbox One could get it in a situation where, and now it will easily port to the Switch 2 at launch. Does that make some sense to you? I guess I see the thinking there.
I don't think that would be in EA's plans, because EA doesn't like the Switch, period. Well, maybe they would look to rectify that with Switch 2.
They did mention that right there, where it was like Andrew Wilson, around this time, I think it might have been this same earnings call, was asked about, hey, what's the deal? Why didn't you support the Switch after it sold so well? And they're like, maybe we misjudged it there, and we're going to try to fix that next time. Yeah, we're going to try to fix that the next time around. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to have some more stuff at the Switch 2's launch to sort of gauge things this time around. And I guess this game makes some sense for that. It makes more sense than like Madden, I think. Madden would probably do okay on the Switch, but people who buy sports games have already chosen their homes, and it's not the Switch. So
that's fair.
Yeah, so I could see them being like, well, to really gauge whether or not we're going to be able to capture some of that audience, let's put one of our better games on there. That's a lot of speculation. That's a long road to get to like making this all make sense, but I guess we'll see. We'll see here pretty soon.
I'm curious to see how they get to run on any of these systems, because my understanding is that now on consoles, this game is at the very least very playable.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but they got to a very playable state. No like super major dips in frame rates or stutters or anything. Still bored on PC is my understanding, and they're just like, whatever. But it'll be interesting to see how this one looks. If it'll be the home console equivalent of a Switch Miracle port.
Right, exactly. Now the Xbox One and PS4 are getting Miracle ports. All right, up next, Shadow of the Erdtree is the highest rated DLC ever, according to Metacritic. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is now the highest rated DLC of all time, according to Metacritic. Reviews for the expansion, which will be released on Friday, were published on Tuesday. At the time of writing, the expansion has a Metacritic score of 95 based on 56 reviews. This puts Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree at 36th place in Metacritic's overall list of highest rated games of all time. The base game has a score of 96 based on 93 critic reviews. Shadow of the Erdtree is also by far the highest rated FromSoft DLC release. Dark Souls' DLC, Astorias of the Abyss, holds an 89 on Metacritic. Dark Souls 2's 3 expansions have an 82, 79, and 82 respectively. Dark Souls 3's Ashes of Arendelle earned a 71, and The Ring City managed an 82. Bloodborne's only expansion, The Old Hunters, earned an 87 on the platform. VGC's Shadow of the Erdtree review called it a sequel-sized sensation. That is not the only review that referred to this as basically Elden Ring 2. That's how big it is. So, yeah, sounds like they knocked it out of the park. I still have not touched it. I have it. I just haven't booted it up yet because I've been trying to finish the 1,000-Year Door. And honestly, hearing that it's like the size of a sequel, you can look at this as Elden Ring 2 already in a lot of ways. Has me think it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to rush in there because I probably am going to spend like 50 to 60 hours in this thing at least. And so I'll get in there when I'm ready and just kind of let it take over my summer. But this will be the one I'm definitely playing on vacation, Sean, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, you played the entire thing on Steam Deck originally. What's going to keep you from like busting this out at the beach or whatever?
Yeah, when I say like taking my time, I'm not going to like be like, well, I got to play it right now, so I'm ready to talk about it this weekend. Maybe we will start it on the website here pretty soon. Maybe I'll find some time for that today or tomorrow. I don't know. But either way, it's like, hey, this game is going to be there. It's going to be in the zeitgeist in the way the last one was. So kind of just experiencing it with everyone else sounds like a great deal to me. I can't remember. I know you don't like the Souls games. How did you end up feeling about Elden Ring?
I just didn't play it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
does this have you more curious at some point?
This is one of those things where back when I was streaming on a regular basis, I would tell my chat, if it comes to Game Pass and there's like no barrier to entry for me at that point, I'm like, I'll check it out at least. But now it's just, I don't like open world games. I don't like Souls games. And so the concept of combining those is like not appealing to me at all. Again, can't emphasize it enough. It's one of those games where I look at it, I'm like, yeah, this looks like an incredibly well-made game.
Oh, of course.
It's not for me.
Yep.
So
totally.
I don't really have an interest in even checking out Shadow of the Erdtree. Like nothing about that is doing it for me either. But it is wild to see that, their other DLCs they've made kind of okay ratings wise.
Yeah, and people tend to like them too. So it's like, right. So it's like, these are, they're in the meaty part of the curve where it's like, yeah, these are good. That's the best thing ever. It's not the original game, but these are good DLCs. And it's like, that means an 82, a 79 on Metacritic or something like that. So this must just be, I have heard it's like off the charts for so many people to get up to a 95 on Metacritic for DLC.
Nobly higher than even Bloodborne. That's very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. When you put it that way.
This is also indicative of where we're at in gaming right now, where a company might struggle to make a true sequel because of how many original assets they make, but making a sequel-sized DLC is very possible because the framework is already there. They can just build upon it with any new art they want, but then they can also recycle old things in ways you may not even notice. Yeah. So I think that's very cool. I think that's why Phantom Liberty was very good for Cyberpunk. I think part of that was they didn't have to worry about building Liberty City completely from scratch. They could reuse some things and then expediting the process, and then just focus on having a good story, having those
right, and in the process of building something new, making everything better, right? They could see all the things that need improvement and do it along the way. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I do wonder. It's like, man, Shadow of the Erdtree, would that have made more sense as an expand alone? But that's just not what they've done before, and clearly it doesn't seem like it needs to be an expand alone because a lot of people do own Elden Ring, and those people do want more of it, so they will show up for DLC. In my head, it's like I always find things that stand alone from the main game more appealing personally. But that's not going to be a barrier here for this game. This game has everything going for it, so it'll be able to carry that momentum forward.
Definitely.
Perfect Dark Switch Online release has various issues. This is from Nintendo Everything. Perfect Dark was one of the surprise additions to the NSO Plus expansion pack service as part of this week's Nintendo Direct. But unfortunately, fans were quick to discover that it's plagued with a number of issues. What's especially concerning is that these problems weren't present when the title first came to the N64 all those years ago, because they're emulation issues. Let's start here with this list. Sound is too low compared to N64, and this is not a settings issue. The dizzy effect is broken, almost making it unplayable. Can get to the point of freezing the screen entirely. Switch version lags from guns emitting smoke from the barrel after firing full auto or fast enough for a bit. Some action tracks won't play. If you're quick restarting a level, the level music won't play at all until you pause the game once. Light flare effect is broken. They will go through any weapon and also some walls and doors. Explosions are more transparent / dim. There's texture issues, input delay, and the wrong sensitivity causing issues with aiming, and there's issues with online play. A lot of those, like lighting effects, music's notoriously difficult for emulation. These are things that sound very familiar to me, Sean, as someone who's done a lot of emulation. I think the good news here is that Nintendo has been pretty good about making improvements to its emulator when these things pop up in the past. I can't remember some of the previous games that were issues that then got a little bit fixed up over time.
All of the N64 games had issues
right.
At first release. I think some of them that I'm trying to remember how many they released at this point. I believe, because I know for a fact that Ocarina of Time had a hard time at first.
Yeah.
And then I think some that got released in the middle there were actually okay. But then, Perfect Dark was also a late N64 game. Yep. A lot more going on there, required the expansion pack and everything. So there's just a lot. Well, it didn't require it entirely.
It basically required it. Yes,
you
could pop the game in and play it had the really squashed version of the game that you could play with that. I tried it once when I was like,
like stuff is missing, and it's half frame rate without the expansion pack. That's why it was.
And it is like letterboxed. Yeah.
This is just because the emulator is nerd for the N64 stuff, correct?
Yes. European
Research Development.
That sounds
nerd
right.
for short, which is
good. Good name.
They keep working on this because I feel like we have to swing back around to the original. Like, why can't Nintendo emulate their own games as well as the community? Again, it's just people making an emulator from scratch, which is what they have to do when it's a commercial project. So they have the team over at Nerd making an N64 emulator, and sometimes things go wrong. And especially if it's a smaller project, like, we talked about Marvel being a smaller project earlier in the show, which seems ridiculous because it's a Marvel branded game. How could that be possible? Because the company's not throwing out a lot at it, because as much as we hold in high regard, not a ton of people are going to play it. That's what's happening here with Perfect Dark. People hold in high regard, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a smaller project for Nintendo in general. So maybe they couldn't QA every tiny little emulation bug. They kind of just had to, put it in their existing N64 emulator, do the tweaks necessary to get it run better, because that's what you have to do with 3D games being re-released through emulation. And that's how we get to this situation here. They'll fix it. They fixed Ocarina of Time. So, they'll get there.
Yeah, that's the good sign. And, N64, always a fun thing to emulate. That was always something that was like very complicated from the beginning, which is, people might not realize that because there were several very good N64 emulators early on.
Man, Ultra HLE, what a freaking miracle that was! Like,
look into
that
a year or
two, a year or two into the N64, you could emulate it on your PC. Just wild.
But it's to this day still kind of a difficult system to emulate, despite all that. So definitely. Nintendo will fix this up. So just keep it on that. But also not the best way to play Perfect Dark anyhow. You go play this on your Xbox right now, backward compatibility, and that's a pretty good time too.
Definitely.
All right, let's finish up here with confirmed. Sony and Nintendo will not be at Gamescom 2024. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. This year's Gamescom kicks off on August 21st, and as usual, we can expect to see lots of games and also enjoy some exciting announcements, especially during the opening night live, produced and hosted by gamer Jeff Keighley. However, the companies that will be attending have yet to be confirmed, but we already know one company that won't be there, and that's Sony. The last time it participated in Gamescom was in 2019. Nintendo usually attends Gamescom sporadically, and you expect them to show up this year as they have so many interesting things in the works, but according to a company representative, they'll be skipping the Cologne show as well. Meanwhile, Xbox has already confirmed it will be there. Xbox will definitely be there. Gamescom is a weird one. I wonder, because it's like so close to the holidays. I wonder how these companies figure it into their marketing plans. It's like, if we have something, we'll definitely be there. But I don't know. It's definitely a massive show. It seems important to a lot of these companies. But Sony's just not been a part of it for a long time. I wonder if it's just we don't need it, so we're not going to use it. You think that's what it is?
I think it might be a perception thing. I don't know, because PlayStation is relatively well regarded over in Europe, as far as I know.
PlayStation is that is like default in Europe.
They used to be huge in Europe, but I believe they're still like, beloved is what I'm trying to get at there. So I find that odd. I can't believe that they would say like, oh, we don't have any fans over there, because clearly they do. I guess they just find it to be not worth it. Kind of a theme of this episode is how worth it is something to a company,
My view of this is like, there was the Sean Layden era and everyone before him that seemed very invested in showing up to live events, to the point where they even had their own PSX. And then Jim Ryan steps in and he's like, I am of the opinion, and this is just me guessing based on what happened, I'm of the opinion, as being Jim Ryan, that this is all a waste of money. And we should not be doing these things because we don't need it. We could put on our own shows much cheaper, and we're going to sell games just fine. We've already won Europe. We don't need to be doing stuff like this in Europe. And so I think even though he's gone, who knows how they feel about these kinds of events now? But the budget for this stuff isn't there. The teams aren't in place to make these things happen anymore, so that they'd have to rebuild that. And there's probably not enough momentum to make that happen either. So this is like them just coasting along on decisions that have been made previously, and who knows how they feel about it. But the fact is they just logistically can't make that happen, because these are massive undertakings for a big company to have a big booth at a show like this. And as Lexi in chat said,
Gamescom is huge.
Gamescom's massive. Xbox already has had big booths in the past, and apparently, according to Lexi, they said they're going to have their biggest booth ever. So,
first of all, because when I say worth, it's just it's not only a question of their presence, but also what do they have to show?
Yeah.
We know the majority of what they have in the near future.
Right.
Why reiterate that with new trailers, or just put out smaller trailers?
Like trying to get Concord to make sense on a show floor when you could just do an open beta for everybody. Like, that's way more worth their time than
that's the worth that I'm talking about. I think you're right. That would make more sense as a online thing,
right? Because Concord could totally backfire, because it's like, it didn't run great, there was internet connection issues, and it was loud, and we couldn't understand what was going on, and everyone was kind of making fun of it. It could be a bad situation, so you kind of want to have more control over that, and you could do that with your own online test.
Yeah, but also mentioned, Xbox is going to be there. I was kind of down on the state of Xbox earlier, and I think justifiably, because as a business, they've been making some really stupid decisions. But they had a damn fine showcase in SGF season, and they said we got more stuff, or we will show more, or whatever they said at Gamescom here, and allegedly they're going to have a big presence. That's honestly exciting to me, because if they carry that energy from their game showcase from a week or two ago now, that's cool. I'm actually excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they need to be doing right now until we start getting these games. Honestly, if they have this E3 showcase and they get to Gamescom and they have another some more positive announcements, and then Avowed comes out and that's like a really good mid-80s Metacritic game, to me it's like, okay, I'm still concerned about how this company needs to make cuts to survive, and I'm going to continue to be concerned about that. But to view this in the most positive light possible, they need to be putting out good games and making people feel good about the future at the very least, or it would just why are we doing any of this? And it seems like they're getting to the point where maybe they can hit that, and I would like to feel good about Xbox, but yeah.
You said mid-80s, and my first instinct was, the internet's going to think that's bad.
You're right, but that's very good, everybody.
y'all weirdos out there are going to be 85, 86.
85
what a bad
is so
score.
hard to get on Metacritic. People don't understand. Yes, that's such a high score. If Avowed comes out and it's at 86, that is massively successful.
That's a triumph.
That's a
good.
triumph. That's the right word.
Yeah. 90s cannot be every game.
It's so hard.
The fact that we've had so many games in the 90s recently is just speaking to how good games can be right now.
A 90 Metacritic, the difference between an 86 and a 91 on Metacritic is 3 years and another $150 million. It's it could be that massive of a gap. So it's
give us more 85s.
Yes.
85s that are easier to produce. Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's
Hell
go.
yeah.
And like real 85s, not like the ones where it's like, maybe this one's just gliding on its momentum because of the name brand recognition or whatever. I just got to run DLL there. Are we still good? Let's see here. We're still live on OBS.
Still live.
Who knows what just broke? It's impossible to say. All right. I got the poll question from earlier this week. Let's get to that. Where are you buying Lego Horizons? PlayStation, Switch, PC, or you're not buying it? Of course, 74% said I'm not buying it. I put that on there because people want to vote on these things, even if they're not, and I don't want them messing it up. So everybody just chill. It's not me being like, oh, we're not buying that bullshit. Was not what I was saying there. 6%.
I think you fostered a certain kind of community around here. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll take responsibility for that for sure. 6% say they're buying it on PC. 7% say they're buying it on Switch, and 14% are buying it on PlayStation. So about 50% of people are buying it on PlayStation, and the other 50% are buying it elsewhere. Yeah,
that feels right to me.
Yeah, right.
Especially when speaking to a core audience, because looking at the statistics, you have to ignore the 74% in order to look at who is buying it. And PlayStation being double what Switch is, and Switch being slightly more in PC. That's interesting. I'm not sure how that'll shake out in the real world.
Right,
I imagine
real world, who knows? Yes.
Switch might even be head to head with PlayStation. We'll have to see how that
how it works out. That either. Yep, we'll see. Yeah, there's a lot to depend on how good the game is, right?
And there's also probably just going to be a bunch of Switch people who don't even know what Horizon is, because that's how big the Switch is. Is that there are people out there who have never even seen Aloy. They've never even seen the cover of a Horizon game. They've never even thought about that series, and then they're like, "Oh, new Lego game, cool! I'll pick this up for the kids."
All right. I have a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. Before we do that, though, Sean, what do you have going on? Where can people find you on the internet? All that good stuff.
Oh, I'm on the website that autocorrects in our brain to twitter.com as TurboShawn _ of course, SHAWN. What else do we have going on here at Giant Bomb? Because that's where I'm at the rest of the week.
Yeah, we will do a voicemail dump truck today. I guess I got to make sure we can figure out how to pull voicemails, which I think we can do, but I'll have to double check. Then, yes, I'll like I said, I'll try to find some time for Elden Ring. Who knows if that's going to be able to happen or not? That's a lot of that's just going to depend on our capacity to make stuff happen on this website.
Yeah, Jan's out, Dan's out or going to be out here. Yeah, we're making things work.
We're making do. But tomorrow we will do a UPF. Maybe that should just be Elden Ring. Can't remember if we decided something else. Did we say we're going to do something else for UPF this week?
I don't think we said anything about UPF.
We said anything. No. Maybe that should just be Elden Ring, and then and then we'll have a BCR as well, where we will talk more about Elden Ring. I think we're going to get Tam on to talk about that. Lucy played a couple other games that we haven't been able to talk about from SGF. I have nope, that's still next week. Plenty of embargoes left to come for that, but we'll just talk about some games on BCR. Maybe do like a Mount Rushmore or something, make it a fun episode. So look out for all of that on GiantBomb.com. Speaking of GiantBomb.com, we're going to have a Game S Mornings tomorrow as well, where we will discuss the poll question. Where do you want to buy Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection? PlayStation, Switch, PC, Xbox if you could, and I'm not buying it. There you go. Those are your options. We'll discuss that on the show tomorrow. In the meantime, Sean, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it was a fun time like always, Jeff.
Like always. And thank you all for watching and listening. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.